Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Thursday, and all of our guests today brought to you by the Vancouver Giants. This Saturday is Teddy Bear Toss Night at the LEC as the Giants take on Everett at 7. Bring a stuffed animal or buy one at the game and toss it on the ice when the Giants scored their first goal. Farhan had a good Teddy Bear toss story. Very limited tickets remain. Visit VancouverGiants.com/tickets. As we're joined now by NHL Analyst, co-host of the Bob McCowan podcast, John Shannon. John, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm great, boys. Happy Thursday.
Yeah, right back at you. Steve Simmons has written an article in the Toronto Sun. I'm just seeing it now. I know you're aware of it, at the very least, the gist of the article. But the headline is, Rogers dropping NHL rights makes Shohei Ohtani deal possible for the Blue Jays. Of course, Rogers, owner of the Blue Jays. Also, the NHL rights that they famously or infamously came up with for $5.2 billion or thereabouts. That deal's expiring in a few years. What can you tell us about this situation, if anything, John?
Well, I've only read the headline just like you just did, Donnie. What I can tell you is the Rogers hockey deal exists for 2 3/4 more years. And whether that will affect if the Toronto Blue Jays get Shohei Ohtani in the next 4 or 5 days will be interesting. What I can tell you from a corporate structure, though, if you're looking at how businesses are structured, the media side of the Rogers Corporation does include the Blue Jays. So the same people that run Sportsnet are the same people that have some influence on how Mark Shapiro spends his money at the Blue Jays.
What do you think Shohei Ohtani sees in the Blue Jays and the city of Toronto?
Well, there's a couple of things that jump out for me. First of all, their training facility in Dunedin is now one of the best in Major League Baseball. Shapiro has been very, very influential on how that place has been built, and it has made an impact for the ball club. And I think it makes an impact when you consider that many players go to Florida, not necessarily the foreign players, but many players go to Florida and spend their time there in the off season. The other thing is, and I keep getting told this by people in and around the baseball club, is the indoor stadium. Is that Ohtani prefers a controlled environment. He played in a controlled environment in Japan when he played in Sapporo, and so that's probably one of the things that is a positive for the Blue Jays. Rogers Center, for all its foibles, and let's face it, it's getting better because of renovations of more than $350 million. Rogers Center, they can control the airflow and they can control the temperature for a lot of the year. What you do wonder, though, is if it's a beautiful day in July in Toronto, as you guys know, there is a couple at least days like that. Would Ohtani say, no, I want the roof closed, and they keep the roof closed? I've always wondered, because our friend Paul Beeston used to decide at times whether the roof was opened or closed based on who the pitcher was. And so you wonder if that truly was the case, and I'm trying to connect dots here on this one. But Ohtani does like playing in controlled environments, and that's one of the reasons why Rogers and Rogers Center and the Blue Jays are attractive to him.
So we talk about these NHL rights for Sportsnet expiring in the relatively near future, and then we hear this week Board of Governors meetings that the salary cap is expected to go up somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 million plus, which for a lot of people, especially people in Vancouver, where the Canucks always have a cap crunch, that seems low. Is there a relationship there, John? Is the NHL worried about the expiration of that contract with Rogers?
No, I don't think so. I think if the commissioner, he's constantly. I mean, the moment the 12-year deal was signed, I can guarantee you that Gary Bettman sat back at his desk in New York City and said, okay, let's start to build an action plan for 12 years down the line. And let's try to figure out what we're going to do in the United States after NBC's contract expires. The numbers that they got out of Rogers were impressive way back when. I think the numbers they got for TNT and ESPN were pretty good at the time of those deals. But there are developing media platforms that the NHL obviously is going to be part of in the future. So I don't see a diminishing level of rights fees in either country in the next contract go around. And so I think if you work with that basis, that you're going to try to get, for the sake of argument, between $450 and $500 million a year out of Canada, that's not going to change. And you have to hope in that period of time, Donnie, that things actually get better than that when you add a streaming platform like an Amazon or Netflix or something that the three of us haven't invented yet that could work by 2027.
I was just going to ask you, when you say streaming, or pardon me, when you say developing media platforms, you just said it. You meant streaming services, Apple, Amazon, whatever the case may be. How do you think that will go over with the public? Well,
I tell you what. I think if you asked me that question pre-pandemic, I would say it wouldn't go over well. Mm-hmm. But I think the world has changed. I think we've learned now that cord cutting is a fact of life. There's a way to watch sports without having a cable TV package. And what we're finding too in the United States right now is the same way that Czech works. Over the air is coming back a little bit. Mm-hmm. So there's always going to be a way. There are going to be sports, and I'll tell you what, I really believe there are more sports fans, more hockey fans than ever before. Ever before. We just have to find a way to get that product to them, and that's the simple part in the end. I mean, it's an old supply and demand situation, and it will always be there if there's a demand for sports, and there's a demand for sports in our country, certainly the NHL.
John, the Maple Leafs are looking for a defenseman. They've talked about Zadorov. They've talked about Chris Tanev. Now they're in on Ethan Bear. What defenseman do you see going to Toronto?
And I'm not trying to be. Do you think Ethan Bear will make a difference? I've seen Ethan Bear play a long time.
Yeah, but he doesn't cost you anything, John, and it's cheap. That's why teams are after him.
Make a difference.
Yeah, this is a team that's already spending more money over the cap than any other team in the National Hockey League.
Yeah.
They have big issues on the blue line, no question. But I think Brad will take his time and try to figure out something either long term at the trade deadline. This is putting a Band-Aid on a 10-inch gash. I just don't see it working out right now. The Leafs have bigger issues on the blue line. They've got to get Mark Giordano back in the lineup. They've got to get Timothy Liljegren back in the lineup. Then all of a sudden some of their issues might go away. But I don't see – I would have seen Zadorov. I like Chris Tanev. I think any team that gets Chris Tanev's in better shape than most other clubs. I don't see Ethan Bear being a difference maker, guys. And I've seen Ethan Bear play since his rookie year.
Yeah. All right, the Canucks are 6-7 in their past 13. I'm going to guess if they lose tonight, there's going to be some fear-mongering going on. But what are you seeing from the Canucks here lately? They're alternating wins and losses.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. It's that old ugly thing of what are you doing in your own zone again? Mm-hmm. And goal differential and is the right type of defense being played in front of Demko or DeSmith. There is going to be a learning curve when you bring in a new defenseman. All you have to do is watch one of those goals from the New Jersey game and wonder what was Zadorov thinking and what was his partner thinking? And are Zadorov and Tyler Myers the right guys to put together? So those are pressing issues. I have a little more confidence in what this coaching staff can do. At the same time, I don't think we could have expected them. I still think they're going to make the playoffs, I don't think we could have expected them to have that great run that they had the first 14 games of the season.
And quickly, John, Patrick Kane, Detroit versus San Jose. What kind of difference is he going to make, if any, in Detroit?
That's a good question. Going to play with Joe Veleno and Alex DeBrincat tonight, at least to start the game. It's going to look weird to see him wearing a Red Wing sweater, as far as I'm concerned. But if he's healthy, he still has one of the greatest sets of hands in the National Hockey League, and a team that can score goals are going to be able to score a lot more goals, particularly on the power play. If he and DeBrincat can re-energize that chemistry that they had in Chicago, then Detroit's in a pretty good position. But this is a surgery that not many people have come back from successfully. Yep. If he gets 14 minutes tonight, I think that's a bonus. But I think the people are saying, well, if he gets to 16, I'd be shocked if he gets to 16 minutes. But start him slowly, get him indoctrinated in the Red Wing system, and we'll see what happens. But if Kane is better than he was with the Rangers, but once he gets the puck on his stick, he is a dangerous player. And last I checked, they didn't do surgery on his hands, and they're still very, very good.
Yeah, league's better with him in it. John, thanks for this great hit. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Have a great day, boys.